Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of the Patriots Report. My name is Christopher Price, the Boston Globe and bostonglobe.com. Joining me as always, my podcast partner, Chris Hogan. Chris, I put it out on Twitter this week. We're going to get to some questions. Some people had some questions for you. I got a couple of tweets back to me, and I got a couple of emails, and we're going to get into those momentarily. But first, big news this past week at voluntary, and I'm going to say this important, voluntary OTAs, Stefon Diggs showed up. I will say, I'll say this. It was a first for me because my Twitter video was cribbed by TMZ. That's never taken place before. We've never had that Venn diagram in New England. What's up?
Don't they pay people for videos?
Well, as long as they had my credit underneath, I was okay with it. So
Okay.
that Venn diagram of Patriots wide receivers and TMZ coverage finally converged in New England with the return of Steph Diggs. So first of all, I wanted to ask you about the video of him that you saw. We saw it. We took the video. You saw it of him cutting, running, catching passes, not doing anything serious 11 on 11 work. But what are some of your early thoughts about how he looked?
I mean, I've already forgotten about the boat video. After watching that, I thought he looked great. How many months is he post surgery?
He went down in October. So what is that? We're looking at 6 5 5. What?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's earlier, I think, that most people expect to come back from an ACL injury and look the way that he's looking, running routes the way and cutting the way that he's cutting. So, there's one thing to be able to do it with no one pushing on you and live bullets and all that kind of stuff. But listen, from what I could tell, he looks really good, and everything that I've read and all the stuff that I've seen, it seems like he's having him there is it's a positive, having a positive impact on, I think, not only just the team and the offense, but it seems like he's doing what I expected him to do. And like what I, as a 10-year vet, he's taken, it seems like he's trying to teach these young kids how to play this game, which is, they need that. Right. And that's something that I benefited from my entire career. Maybe not later on because I became the guy that was teaching. But early on in my career, man, I leaned on those guys that have been in the league, that have done the thing, that were successful, that knew how to run routes, that knew how to get open versus man coverage or zone or whatever it is. And I saw a video of the receiver coach, and I Bleav it was Polk on the sideline,
Mm-hmm.
and you could just tell they were going through it, right? And it wasn't just like on the field running routes, like they were just talking through like whatever Diggs' process was of this is how I run this route. I could just, without even being there, I could tell you that he was giving him valuable information. Um, and that is, those two young kids need that.
Mm-hmm.
They need that bad. They need it really bad. They haven't had it. Kendrick Bourne is a phenomenal receiver. I love KB. I do. But he got hurt, right? And it was, maybe he wasn't really able to add that sort of veteran leadership just because of the injury and everything that he had going on. So now that you have this mix of Kendrick, Diggs, and what's his
Pop.
well, yeah, Pop there too. I think Pop's still young too. I think
Yeah,
Pop is
and
still
Mac Collins is the other.
Matt,
Yeah, Mac
right?
Collins is the
Yeah,
other one. Yeah.
yeah. They call him caveman, but yeah, I think having all of that group of guys right now, this time of year is like what we talked about, is just going to be so crucial for these young kids to like take that next step. So it sounds like the meeting with Rabel went well with Stefon, with Diggs, and um listen, I'm happy to see him there. I really am. He seems like he's making the right decision, and I don't know how he's dealt with the media, or if he's dealt with the media
He
yet,
just
but
he just gave us a wave and said, "Hey, nice
which
to see
is
y'all." Yeah.
which listen, man, it's fine. We're gonna be able to get to the questions about the boat and all that kind of stuff. But you know what? that might not be a question you guys are even considering asking if he's continues down this path of showing up to OTAs and all of a sudden he gets out there at mini camp and maybe he takes a few reps and he's looking good. It's like, hey, like what like why are we gonna bring this up if he's actually being the guy that we want him to be is good teammate, kind of showing up, teaching these young guys how to play the game. He's hurt, but coming back, he looks great from an injury. Like let's breed a little positivity into this into Gillette Stadium, So yeah, man, I was definitely I was thrilled to see him back there, and I texted you right away. I mean, I I've seen guys come back from ACL injuries, and it does not look like that.
Mhm.
6, 7 months post surgery. So he's obviously taking his rehab very seriously. Uh, which again goes back to the point of, okay, yeah, we got this video of him on the boat and doing the thing, but then he comes out and looks like this. Like, do we really care? Like, no, because he's coming out and he's able to do his job right now, post surgery, 7, 8 months, and looks the way that he's looking. Probably going to continue down this path and look better, come training camp and be able to be out there, which I don't know what the expectations were,
Yeah.
for him. So
I guess it's my understanding that the timeline right now is he is still technically injured, and so he doesn't have to talk with us. Players who are,
good.
banged up, whatever the case may be, are not obligated to speak with the media. So
Gotcha.
my thought is that we're probably going to get him somewhere during training camp.
Yeah.
I think he's going to start, at least if my sources are correct, he's going to start on PUP,
Okay.
and which means he obviously won't be available to us, and so he won't talk. So he'll talk in August, and
Yep.
then by then the
No one's
boat
gonna care.
video is going to be 3 months in the
Yeah.
rear view. No
Yeah.
one's. I don't want to say no one's going to care about it because he's going to get questions about it. And
Yeah.
if there is a setback, and if he does something foolish again, it's
Sure.
going to be a topic again. But to your point, it's all systems go right now. Everyone's looking forward. If he continues to ascend the
Yeah.
way that we saw, if he continues to practice the way we saw him practice the other day, it's not going to be an issue. And again, like we said last week, if he comes out and catches 9 balls for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Raiders, this is a speed bump.
Yeah.
And it's all on him right now, really. It's all on him. If he continues in this direction, it's all good. The other thing, too, I was fascinated by this. He spent a lot of time with Polk.
Yeah.
And part of it is because they are both quote unquote kind of injured. Polk had some stuff that he had, worked on in the offseason. He was wearing a yellow penny. You had a great point. It's like, the yellow penny is probably, it's not an injury. It's not a non-contact thing like a quarterback wearing a red jersey. It's
Yeah.
just make sure you don't blast this guy
Yeah.
coming over the
Yeah.
middle, even in shorts and t-shirts.
Yeah.
I think he is going to have a greater impact on Polk because of those sessions off to the side.
Yeah.
Baker, I'm not dismissing Baker, but Baker is also working with special teams guys. And so I think we're going to see more of, the Polk Diggs combination as a group, as guys who are not special teamers, as guys who are just wide receivers who, doing that work. So
Yeah.
it was fascinating. And he remains for me one of the most compelling guys the Patriots have signed over the last decade because he moves the needle so dramatically.
Yeah. I mean, I like I said earlier, this sessions that he's getting with a veteran like Stefon, well, it'll be interesting to see what he takes from it and how he's able to. I think for it, Stefan probably has a good idea of where this kid is at in his career, and by career I mean his second year in the league, and he probably provides this unique perspective of like, hey, you want to have a long career, like not every year is going to be great. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs. How are we dealing with the lows and how are we dealing with the highs? And right now, I mean, listen, I'm going to call him right in the middle because you're a rookie. There's some high expectations, but you weren't on a very good football team, and we just didn't play well. So wipe that slate clean, forget about it, move on, and like let me teach you how to do these things and get better. Because like, listen, we all know. I mean, these kids that they have in that room are good athletes. I mean, we all watch their film in college. I mean, they're tremendous athletes. So now it's on them. It's always been on them, but it's on them to now become receivers. And in some cases, like Baker, maybe it's doing both to stay on this roster. And that, to me, if he's able to mature to that level of football, right, where he's like, hey, I'm not a two, a three, or a four, whatever that is, but my path to being on this football team is through special teams, provide more value, right? Bill used to always say, if you're not good at one thing, then you better be damn good at, of 10 things, right? And I always took that to heart because that's how I kind of played, how I lasted in this league. Is like, listen, I was never the best receiver when I started playing, and I knew that, but I knew that I could be damn good at special teams because I knew I could run around and do whatever was asked me. I knew that I could figure out receiver and get open and catch the ball and make plays, and just try to be like, hey, you want me to kick the ball? Cool. I used to go out there and punt pre-practice just because I wanted to show them, like, yeah, man, if you need a backup punter, like, I'm your guy.
We would have, by the way, if you had done that like during training camp, we would have lost our shit. We would have it would have been a stop the presses kind of thing, going like, oh my God, what's Hogan doing? Why is he punting? We got to get 3 stories on that.
Yeah,
but that's a great example of
I used to just do whatever you can, man, to make this football team. Dude, this is your life. I mean, this could either be the next 4 or 5, whatever, however long your career could be. But if you're not willing to put the time into just doing whatever it takes to make this reality and this dream that you've been wanting to play since you were little, then this is not for you. It's as simple as that. You gotta love this stuff, and you're gonna have to grind. This is not supposed to be easy. This is the NFL. NFL stands for not for long, right? And it's less than the player average is less than 3 years now. Then if you're not willing to do whatever it takes to make this to keep this dream alive, then I don't know. Make sure you have, go get that, finish your college degree and go figure it out somewhere else. But like, you gotta dig deep to make this thing happen. And this is the time to do it, the next couple months.
Who's a great punter? Who wasn't a punter, but who was a great punter, who told us as often as he could that he was a great punter, was Tom Brady.
Oh, God.
He got off a couple of
surprise pooch kicks, on third down in the red area. Deep. Yeah. Sure. I'm sure he was real good at that. Yeah.
Were you good at all, or were you just screwing around?
Oh no, I could kick the ball.
Yeah.
To this day, I Believe that I could have lasted in this league as a punter. I promise you I could have. But I also have my confidence level of my athletic ability is just far beyond probably what a lot of other people are. But I promise you, I was a punter in college. I was my backup punter in college. And that's how I became the backup punter. I walked out on pre-practice, but he was one of my buddies. He was the punter, and he was hurt, right? So I walked over to special teams coach. I said, I can kick. And then after that, I was backup punter, and I kicked in one game. Because I booted the ball, man. I didn't have there wasn't a lot of technique. But then, now this is where it gets interesting, right? Is I used to then start asking advice, right? From hey, how do you drop the ball? Where should you drop it? Where are you kicking it? Once I go down that path, it's like then it's over. If you have me start practicing this thing, I promise you, I could have done it. But
a serious question: How old are you right now?
37. If you wanted me to go back into the NFL right now and be a punter, and you gave me an off season to train, I could do it. I
That's you. There are guys who played. Look, Tom was in the league when he was older than 37. He was playing quarter. They're punters. They're punters and kickers. Nick Folk is 40.
Yeah.
and he's still, he's still looking for a job.
Yeah. Those guys, I mean, those good kickers, good punters, I think. Kickers, I feel like we kind of
Hmm.
cycle through more. But if you're a good punter that you can change the direction. We're going off on a tangent here right now, but
This is cool. This is
if you
interesting.
if you can switch the field, right? You have the ability, you have a strong enough leg to change field position, but then also everyone is the guys returning are good players, right? You want to keep so directional is something that we're thinking about, and then also you got to kick the ball up in the air. Like if you're having a 4 second hang time, that's not enough time,
Hmm.
right? Like you need to be able to launch that thing up in the air so it's up there for another. I'm not saying another 5 seconds, but you have that 5 6 second hang time. Like I used to, we played with a guy in Buffalo who was, I mean, he would be furious. Like you have a guy kick an 80-yard punt, but the hang time was like 3.5 seconds. He would be livid, just what the like you ball's gotta go up. But he was right because if you give that guy like he's catching it now at 3.5, 4 seconds, and he's got 20 yards of space in front of him, bad shit happens. Right. So that was always interesting to me to the better punters that are around were guys that could like, hey, listen, we're backed up. I need you to pound this thing to the opposite 30. Great. Hang time might not be that good, but also you rely on your coverage team to get down there and make the play. Hopefully it's not a huge return. But then you have guys where, Thomas Morstead, right? Like he was a guy that I hated. Because I caught punts, for a couple of times, but we used to always watch him, right? You could always have tells. Guys would set up one way or the other. Thomas would be like with his back turned face to the left sideline, and then he'd catch the ball and flip, and like you'd have to like read where he was kicking the ball. So those were the guys that were like those good directional punters that just like drop it right on the sideline, 50 yards, with a 4.5 second, 5 second hang time. You're fair catching all day, man. I mean, it's all day fair catches, and those are those like hidden yardage,
Hmm.
markers that no one really talks about. But when you get into that meeting on Monday, it's like, hey, we won that hidden yardage, right? Because we didn't have any return yards. We forced fair catches, all day long, and those can be big changes, right? And then all of a sudden, a guy that's like gets tired of fair catching, tries to get one, and balls on the ground. So
Who was the guy? Who was the punter who got it? Who was the punter who understood it? Who was the best punter that you either played with or played against? Was it Morstead?
yeah, I mean, there were so many good punters. I mean, I love playing with Ryan. Like he was a lefty punter.
Hmm.
Bill loved the lefties, and Ryan he was a really good directional punter, but also
Ryan Allen.
Ryan out, yeah.
Hmm.
So lefty punter, obviously this it comes down differently, and so like you could prepare for that and how they shut out the jugs sometimes. Like if you had the old school ones, you could switch the wheels so that you had different spin. But some of the other ones, like it's different. It just comes out like a normal punch. So the lefty punter, like just it comes down like very, very differently. So he was tough to catch from or to prepare for. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of like some of the bigger like who is the guy in Miami? Big tall punter. I forget his name, but like I mean this guy I saw him kick 80 yards on a fly. Like I mean he if you asked him to flip the field, I mean he could just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, those guys are a dime a dozen, but also I could do it. So
You know what? I would love to make that happen, man. Get you back in the league, get you signed for veterans minimum, and having you punting this year. That'd be dynamite. That'd be great. That'd be great. Well, here let's kind of change course here a little bit because we got some questions from some people. And the first one is from Ed. This came via Twitter, and it kind of piggybacks off the Steph Diggs stuff. How concerned should the Patriots be about Diggs and his antics? That's the phrase that Ed uses at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I think I'm going to call it what it is. I think it's a guy that everyone's seen the video of him in the offseason he's enjoying his offseason time. But just understand that he came back to OTAs and looks the way that he looks because he's putting in pretty substantial amount of time into his rehab. And guys don't look like that, you know, 7, 8 months out of post surgery of an ACL. It's just they haven't been. I won't say that they don't look that. I haven't been around like a lot of guys that look as good as he does right now. So I don't think there's a cause for concern. You see him talking to the young guys on the field, during OTAs, and he's working with some of the injured guys, and you could just tell that he's kind of leveled up that the degree of, let's just call it, positive vibes, energy. So he brings that to that group. I think he brings it to the offense, and I think that he's inevitably one of those guys that's just going to kind of raise the bar a little bit here. So concerned. Obviously, got to put pads on and have to be able to kind of deal with the ebbs and the flows of the season, and kind of. I think that the Patriots they have this position where they have to try to keep him happy, I think, right? Where
Yeah.
you don't want him to go off the reservation, right? Where he's frustrated and not happy. So if I'm Josh McDaniels, I'm getting him touches early in the game, get him going, and kind of see how the game unfolds. Obviously, he's going to be a guy that's going to be, he's going to have the number one corner on him every single week, and double teamed, and he knows that he's been dealing with that his whole career. So, get creative, find ways to get the ball, and I think be okay here.
I think that's an important thing to bring up too, that you need to find ways to keep him engaged, keep him involved, and it's important to get him involved early. And if you get him involved early and you get the momentum headed in the right direction, when we're talking about, post Labor Day here, really. The only guy who I can think of off the top of my head, and look, all athletes are different, all situations are different. I understand that. The situation with Welker at the end of the 2009 season where he ripped up his knee in Houston, and then he came back, he rehabbed and was back in time for the start of the 2010 season. That for me is the only case of a wide receiver, the only one that I've seen where a wide receiver had a severe knee injury at the end or toward the end of one season and then was back at the start of the following season. So again, I want to be careful because the severity of injuries, it's all over the place and the timeline is different for everyone. But Welker was really good in 2010. And he'd been here for a while. And so, he had the background with Tom and Josh and all that. But you could see a bit of a blueprint there with Welker when you look at what Diggs has done.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So this is I'm glad you bring up Josh's stuff because the next question we have is Tim C. from Charlestown, Rhode Island. He said, can you explain the offense that Josh McDaniels is instituting in a way the average fan can understand? And do you think it fits with Drake Maye's skill set?
Here's what Josh is going to do. Very black and white. Josh is going to the game plan every single week is going to change. There are going to be different plays, different personnels, different formations based on who they're playing. And what Josh and the coaching staff and what Josh has always done a very good job at is he is a game planner, and he is going to digest the film like you've never seen before, because he's going to look at how they defend the run, how they defend the pass, what coverages they're doing, where's their weak, where are they weak, where are they weakest, what are they susceptible to, what formations give them the most trouble, what personnel gives them the most trouble. So I think that listen, we don't know if Drake's going to be able to do what Josh's offense is capable of doing until he gets out there and does it. But yeah, Drake is a phenomenal athlete. He can throw the ball. He makes all the throws. Like I got to imagine that Drake is going to thrive in this offense. I think that he is. I think that we've added a lot of some pieces to the puzzle here that he's going to be able to not have to hold on to the ball as long. Like let's just kind of get it out of his hands and let's make sure that again it's going to be up to the players to kind of get into this offense and understand it and learn it and be able to come out every single week and be in different personnels and be in different formations so that we can hit those plays where the defense is most susceptible to or they're weakest at. So there's definitely a lot that goes into his game planning and his offense. I mean, shoot, it seemed like our playbook would change weekly, but there'd be some games where we'd be in, two tight ends the entire game because they struggled against the run with two tight ends and they struggled against the pass and two tight ends. And there'd be some games where we were no huddle and four receivers out there just because they weren't capable of changing on the fly and they didn't do well with no huddle and they stuck in the same offense and we or the defense and we knew what plays that we could run. So like, for example, when we played the Steelers have been running the same defense for forever, it seems like, right? They ran, cover three man, and we were just able to game plan so well against them, and we knew exactly how to beat them and knew exactly what plays we could run. And they were a team which was fun for us to play because we knew that we could go into it with multiple different personnels and multiple different formations, but also we could just kind of just hit this no huddle and just force them into their blanket cover three zone. And now all of a sudden we have our best plays up for that. Then we go and we play Houston, right? And Houston, they had JJ Watt off the edge and they got, God, what was the linebackers? I mean,
Merciless.
Merciless. Yeah. I mean,
Merciless.
they had two guys, pushing when he was there. They got guys that could really they could rush and defend the pass and really make, create some chaos in the backfield. Great. Two tight ends, put a fullback in there and let's run the ball. And we would just build off of that. All right, cool. We're gonna be a two tight ends and a fullback. Well, here comes the drop back play action pass, and we hit you, for 20 big chunk play. So Josh really does a phenomenal job of game planning, and his offense is going to change week to week. I know that he's going to try to not be so predictable, and there's going to be a lot of screens. Ball's going to be out of Drake's hands quickly, but also it's like a chess game, right? It's Josh is going to just wait for those moments, and then all of a sudden, here comes a big chunk. Right? So. I do think that Drake is going to be able to be successful with Josh. I think that the two of those guys are going to do well this year.
Can Josh do any of that game planning right now with any sort of veracity? Can he look at like the Raiders depth chart at this point and say, look, they're vulnerable. This group appears to be vulnerable against running backs catching passes out of the backfield.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And what he also could do, and a lot of teams do this, but let's just say there's a new regime in Las Vegas, right? Well, let's go look and see what Pete Carroll does in Seattle. What was Pete Carroll's defense? What was Pete Carroll's, even on the offensive side? Like this is how he played the game in first quarter. This is how he played in the third quarter. This is how he plays third and long and third and short. So it doesn't necessarily, I don't have to actually go back and look at the Raiders specifically, but let me go back and look at what Pete Carroll did as a coach wherever he was. Seattle obviously is the most relevant for us, and see how he played the game that way. And then Josh is going to do that. I know Josh is doing that. He's going back and looking at Seattle's defense and hey, this is how they do things. Like maybe this is all right. This is what the defensive coordinator for who's the Raiders D coordinator right now. I don't even know.
I don't know if the
but
top of my
anyways,
head. Yeah.
I don't know. But anyways, he's going back and looking like wherever he's been, he's going back and looking at how he plays defense. So yeah, we'll look at personnel and see what some guys are good at and what they're not, what they don't do well at. But then there's probably going to be a lot more of, all right, let me research the coach more and see how he plays against what's his red zone defense, what's his third and short, what's his third and long, what's his, P and ten, which first play of the game, first play of a series, like so, like there, that's going to be important and stuff that Josh is going to look at a lot.
See, this is going to be great for me to sound like I'm really tapped in because the first week of the regular season, we can ask a question. I'll ask a question and I'll say, well, Mike, since this the first game in with Vegas, how much do you go back and look at Pete's old tendencies? I know that you don't have a lot of film on him. Do you look at the preseason film or do you go back and look at the film on him from Seattle?
Yeah.
So, and that makes you sound like a smart reporter who's paying attention. So I'll file that one away for week one of the regular season. Thank you very much. One more question here from our mailbag. We've heard from the rookies about players they've looked up to when they were playing. Was there a guy like that for you, either as a young athlete or someone when you came into the league who was like that, who you saw and was like, that's the guy who I need to follow? Whether it was even when you were growing up, but there's a singular guy in the league that you pointed to and said, that's the guy who's doing it right. That's the guy I want to be like.
Fred Jackson.
Who's up?
Fred Jackson. That was my guy. Fred was to me, Fred was one of those guys that, no one thought that he was going to have the career that he had. Ended up being one of the best running backs that played in Buffalo, had a tremendous career, a long career. But he was, listen, not only was he just, I used to go over to his house on Thanksgiving, right? Like he would invite me into his family, and he was just a good teammate, man. And he just did everything he was a pro's pro. And what I mean by that is he took every facet of this game seriously. He took his career seriously, his position seriously. He worked tirelessly at it. He was in the weight room, in the training room, working, so that was like initially kind of my thought process of how to take care of my body kind of started, where I was like, okay, like, yes, I knew that this was going to be an important part of my career, but maybe it didn't totally register with me when I was 24. But then when I turned 28, 29, I'm like, okay, like the wear and tear is real. Like the soreness sets in a little bit quicker. How am I combating these things? And obviously Tom was one of those guys for me too, because his workout, his routine and his work ethic and how he took care of his body changed my career completely. I was always an ice bath guy. I was always a guy that was in there for 10, 12 minutes every single day. I haven't taken an ice bath in since I got to New England. So in 10 years or so, I have not taken an ice bath, right? Because I just got so obsessed with getting body work done and how to do the body work and what to eat, and nutrition became even more important to me. So, and not only that, but Tom was just, he taught me a lot. Like I learned football from him. I really looked up to the way that he approached the game and how much he put into it. And I was obviously, this, like I was the guy that always wanted to do more. And then I met Tom. And I'm like, shit, like I'm not doing enough. But that was good for me because I got to see that. I got to see a guy who won Super Bowls, and it was the 14th, 15th year in the league, and he was doing so much of this extra stuff. And it was like, cool, like I want to do that too. I want to go off day. Let me go catch extra passes on the jugs or go get extra body work or do extra things and extra film, all these different stuff. So, those two guys for me were probably two of the guys that I really looked up to. And then there was also another guy. There was a guy very like my first year in the league, Davone Bess. I don't know if you remember him. He was a smaller receiver in Miami. But Davone, I kind of gravitated towards him. He would always answer my questions. And once I got comfortable around these guys, even early on in my career, like, dude, I was I mean, I was rattling questions. How do I do this? How do you do this? How do you run this route? How do you, so he was always a guy that he would have conversation with me and tell like, and it wasn't just like, I just get over it, right? Like he didn't do that. He would break it down with me and he was always a big supporter of mine when I was in Miami. So yeah, I had a lot of those guys, man. I looked up to a lot of guys early on in my career, but those three, always stick at the top of my head.
The veteran who invites the young guys over for Thanksgiving
Man, those guys, man, those are the
is
best.
you want to be that guy. We heard that a couple of times this week when David Andrews had his retirement presser in
Yeah.
Foxborough, and he was one of those guys. Fred Jackson was one of those guys in New England. I remember guys talking about Logan Mankins being one of those guys who look, you don't have anywhere to go on Thanksgiving. Come on over. We'll set an extra plate for you. Those guys, you want to be that guy when you've been in the league for a few years. You want to get a reputation as that guy because those are the kind of guys that I think that this league is built on.
It's such a small gesture, but for a young kid who's away from his family or doesn't have family in the area or is living apart from his wife or girlfriend or kids and Thanksgiving, everyone's with they got these guys that have been in the league or been in one place, they have their families there, or they have people coming in and listen, I spent some thanks. I had a few Thanksgivings where I was bringing home turkey dinners from the facility, and being in the league can be very lonely sometimes too, man. Early on, and one of the things that I tell a lot of these guys that are trying to do some of the stuff, like especially as an undrafted player, it's not it's not all sunshine and this big, this, oh, you're in the NFL, life must be so glamorous, and it's not, man. It's very freaking lonely and it's hard. It's really hard. And I tell these young guys, like, you have to be okay with that. Like, if you want to do this stuff, like, you're going to be lonely. You're going to be in the off season and only have a few hours in the facility. And then it's like, okay, now you have the rest of your day to fill out and do different things. Then the season starts. So, yeah, man, if you have a guy that's like, hey, come over to my house for dinner, I'm like, I'm there. I don't have to eat facility food. Like, and I get to be around. Like, I used to love it because, get to be around his kids, and his wife was, I mean, she was amazing. And she was always like, those guys that open the doors for people. And it's just
Mhm.
like, doesn't matter where you're from, like, just come in, be a part of our family, because the football is football family in the locker room, right? But then it's a totally different feel when you get invited to someone's house after, like, outside the locker room, and you actually just get to, like, it's almost just you get to unwind a little bit and just you get a real picture into who this guy is.
And forgive me, we may have talked about this before, but were you a TB12 guy when it came to nutrition and body work and Alex and all that?
Yeah. Oh yeah, big time.
And
That's what I'm referencing when I'm telling you that that's what changed my career as far as um how my health and coming, whether it was, listen, you get nicked up here and there, but being able to, I used to go to them, 2, 3 times a day. I would go early in the morning before I went into facility. I'd see them after. If I was dealing with any sort of injury, I'd probably see them a second, a third time. Even when I went to different teams, I had those guys come and work on me, and I'd have them come down for a week or week or two throughout the season just to get that, that extra work that my body had gotten used to for those 3 years I was there. But yeah, it was. That was Alex and the way that they approached taking care of your body. Really, it changed everything for me. It really did.
I know we've talked about the weight room in Foxborough being less than fantastic. But was there ever, in your experience, any sort of conflict between the TB12 guys and the team program?
Yeah, I mean, there were guys that we don't have to get into it too. I mean, listen, Tom did his thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think for the most part, even if you went to Alex and TB12 and you were getting body work done, for the same guys that were going in the weight room and moving weight around and doing the thing. There was probably some different things that maybe some people gravitated towards because, like, listen, you're a professional athlete. Like, you have to do what's best for your body,
You're
and what's
investing.
best
You're an investment. Exactly.
totally. And that was like for me when I got to New England. Um, the head strength coach at the time, like they loved squatting. And I told them that from day one, I was like, I had not squatted since college, even before college, because I wasn't a good squatter, didn't have the best form, but this is what works for me. All the single leg stuff, single leg squats, everything that was all kind of unilateral, like that. That's what works for me. That's what's going to make me feel the best. That's what's going to keep me on the field the most. And I need to be able to make that adjustment into my workouts and doing different things. So um, I, I always, and I, again, this is another piece of like, again, you're an investment, right? You are investing into your career and how long you're going to last in this league. Don't be a guy that is just going into, if you're not comfortable with doing something or it's going to hurt you or you don't have the best form, like it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Like just have the conversation man to man. Like we're grown adults here. We don't need to control every single aspect of what workout routine is. Like these guys got to a certain place because of what they were capable of doing in the weight room and more importantly on the field. So like let's keep them on the field. If this is going to hurt them, like why are we doing it? And that was kind of not to get into it too much, but that was always a little bit of a battle with me for in New England.
Gotcha. All right. Last question for me this week. We saw a video of you with your old coach pop up on social media. Tell us a little bit about it and how it all kind of came about.
Yeah, so Paul Rabel, who is one of the co-founders of the PLL, guy that good friend of mine, was a huge supporter of me coming back and playing in the PLL, and we always stayed in touch throughout my career. And Bill obviously was a huge Paul Rabel fan and loves lacrosse, and Paul called me when he was started this series, Rabel's Places, and he wanted to do a segment on kind of this crossover dual sport athlete going from football to lacrosse, and obviously it made a lot of sense for Bill to be there as well, just because he loves the game and the sport of lacrosse, and it was fun, man. I got to I don't get to see Paul very often, guys, all over the place, and it was great to catch up with him, and I love talking about playing multiple sports and the crossover from lacrosse to football, just because I just think it's so similar in how you train and how you prepare for the game. And obviously I follow lacrosse to this day. I mean, the sport continues to grow, and then we got a chance to chop it up with Bill a little bit, and I mean he hasn't changed. It's same, same old Bill. Um, but yeah, he does loosen up a little bit when he's talking lacrosse, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. We had fun filming that.
He signed a copy of his book for you?
Nah, he was, he was too big time. He was like this was like during his social media and being all over the place phase. So he was like he had like an hour to come here, and then he was taking a car into the city, and then he was going to like do a pregame show here. I mean, he was all over the place.
Dude's never dull. He's never dull. He's never dull. I'll say this, man, he keeps us, even at the University of North Carolina, Boston Globe continues to write about him. So he's good
Making
for business.
headlines.
Exactly. Chris Hogan, my friend, thank you so much for taking the time to do this as always. Take care, and we will talk again next week.
Thanks, Chris.